So maybe let's start with a little bit of introductions, and then you guys will figure out why I collected the three of you to have a talk today. So Telly, do you want to start by introducing yourself to Antoinette and Anashri?
Okay. My full name is Saloteli. I'm a software developer, basically more into front-end development. So I met Zakia through coaching skills during my time in Garibi Tech in 2023, which is basically last year. So the reason I reached out to Zakia was because I was having difficulties in the job market. So I needed some career coaching around that, which is basically what she did exceptionally so. So yeah.
I'll be happy when we land something, when you have that job offer in your hand, Telly. And that's why I
Yeah,
invited you today, is you are currently facing a few challenges, and those are the things I want you to bring forward, right? And I've got two very interesting personalities in Anashri and Antoinette. So I just want to move over to them for a minute, Telly, so you have a chance to meet the ladies as well. And maybe that can put into perspective our talk for today. So Anashri, shall we start with you? Going to give a brief introduction in some of your background.
Okay, great. So, hi all. Yeah, so my name's Aneshri Naidu. I'm currently with IBM, but I've got a wealth of knowledge and experience, 15 years now within the HR and skills development space. Moved around from different industries, being retail, telecoms, and now within the technology industry. So yeah, my role at IBM currently is really managing skills development, specifically the legislative elements around that, making sure our organization's compliant, and I'm sure you're well aware of the BEE scorecard, making sure our organization's quite legally sound with it. And then as well as management control elements. So it's the employment equity part of it. Are we developing the right talent? Are we promoting the right talent? Are we retaining the right talent within IBM so that we grow IBM in the economy and the business, etc. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's a big nutshell, Anashri. And I know that from the work that we do together. It's like a bag of nutshells.
I feel like I would live up to some of the stuff Anisha has mentioned. So my name is Antoinette, and I've been in recruitment, which is talent acquisition, for the last, I think, 5 years. So it was a pivot from my previous career. I worked in retail. So the commonality there is in retail, sourcing for the right caliber people for the business. So that's what informed my next move in terms of changing careers. So I am currently in talent acquisition, so I recruit, but I have experience external and internal recruitment. I'm currently in internal recruitment. So I work for a company that we recruit talent for the business, but I have worked for businesses that I recruited for other people, where either Bidvest or even Accenture is looking for people, then we would look for whatever skill that they're looking for in the market, and I would place them there. I hope that's enough in terms of an introduction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is great. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've prepared, some questions to help guide the conversation, but I want to invite you to speak beyond that if you want to. And this is not only my session. You can speak to each other as well. If you have questions for each other, and Telly, I'm sure you've got some questions as well for Antoinette and Anashri, given the position that you're in. So you're in the job market. Anashri looks after IBM and all the HR activities regarding talent management, BEE. Antoinette is working for internal recruitment, but she also does source or has sourced for other companies externally. So quite healthy conversations that we can have around the table. Tilly, let's start with you. Being in the job market right now, what are the challenges that you face and what are the thoughts that recur in your mind while you are looking for a position in the IT space?
Okay. I thought I was on mute. Okay. I believe for now the biggest challenge which I'm facing is the gap which I have on my resume. I've had 6 months or so of being unemployed, so I believe or I think that plays a major role in securing myself an interview or a job because recruiters would say, what have you been doing in the last 6 months or last 8 months where while you were unemployed, and what have you been up to, and what led to you to be unemployed for that long? Haven't you been applying? So it raises so many questions about that criteria of my career. So I believe that's the biggest challenge which I'm facing.
Can I jump in? And then why have you got to that gap in your CV?
I've been moving from contracts to contracts. I haven't had anything permanent in so long. I've had 4 jobs which were all contracts, and I've all seen them to completion. So I haven't had any extension or so in my recent jobs. So my focus this time was more on permanent jobs than contract jobs. So I believe that limited my job search.
Okay. So have you had any people offering you the contract roles and you declined them?
I haven't, because after my recent job, I haven't applied for any contract job except for recently I've started uh uh reevaluating my options and not limiting myself to anything. So maybe I might get an extension or a permanent job through a contract position. So that's what's happening.
Definitely. I think especially in software development, it's a lot of contracts purely because it's project based. You start a project, you do the required job, and then it does come to an end. So it would be contract based unless you would work for development within an organization. So if you're going to be doing projects, you will be contract based. And in terms of what the future of the work world is, it would be contract or project based. So limiting yourself to permanent work per se is putting yourself at a disadvantage. So I would recommend that you do take up the contracts. Some contracts do convert to perm, so in the meantime that you are just acquiring project-based work, you would be, it would work in your best interest to take the contracts that are being offered, because very few companies now give permanent positions purely because it costs company more to keep permanent staff without knowing how many more projects they're going to acquire anyway. And
Mhm.
project work, contract work pays a lot more than perm, actually. So money in the bank is in contract work, and then perm is just the cushion that I know when I wake up tomorrow I have a job, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And, just from my side, Telly, understand the industry that you're in. You're in the information technology industry. This is how the industry sort of works. Contractual work, don't see it as a disadvantage. You're actually in an advantaged place because you're getting diverse skill in completing these stints of contracting work. You are able to explore businesses, various businesses, of how they operate, what do they do, various projects. You are actually then, in the, you said you've been quite successful in getting contract work, and you should look at that as a positive, because you are actually actively gaining employment. You're actually gaining experience, exposure that's putting you at the forefront of someone who has just recently graduated, or someone who's just recently completed their university degrees or diplomas, etc. You actually at the forefront and have more competitive advantage in the industry because of the contractual work that you've completed. So in an interview, you shouldn't, when you get, the question about contract work, you must say confidently saying, knowing the industry, contract work is actually advantageous to me because I get a diverse skill. I get to apply my skill diversely into different organizations. I get to, complete the projects. The projects are successful, rather than just, as Antoinette said, having the cushion and, being comfortable in a certain job role. And I promise you, if your answer to an interview question is positioned that way, the interviewee or interviewer in this situation will be much admired by your answer. And, understanding your drive and understanding that, you being able to get contractual work on a continuous basis, that, you attractive in the job market, So I think you should look at it as a positive and not a negative.
Okay.
Now, the one
And I saw
challenge
that sigh
Kelly and I
change to a
had-
smile, so I'm happy.
Yes. I actually didn't think of it that way. But the one challenge that Telly and I had that we were trying to overcome was, when Telly introduced himself now, he said front-end developer. But when we sat together and we were working on his LinkedIn profile and trying to map out, what are the activities he can do now to boost up his CV, he said, Zax, maybe we should take off front-end developer and just say developer. And I said, and it's this trick of, and I know this particularly in the IT space, that you've got to go wide, broaden your skills, but then you've got to come back and specialize. And while you're trying to do this, the IT space itself is just moving. Then there's AI, and then there's cloud, and then there's security. And it's like, where do I go wide? Where do I come back in? Where do I specialize? You've got to be so agile. So I don't know if there's anything you can speak to for that. And actually, I know on your side, particularly you hiring graduates on a regular basis, right? You've got IBM, and then you've got IBM's clients. How do you deal with this wide and then narrow in terms of skills that you're looking for with the graduates?
So, it is actually in theory. So it's called the T-shape methodology around skills. One needs to cross-skill, but have a deepened skill in terms of it. So in Telo's case at the moment, he's deep around front-end development. That's his deep skill. But he obviously needs to cross-skill in terms of making himself relevant in the marketplace around AI, DevOps, cybersecurity. If he doesn't understand all of these other technical aspects, and again, that comes with a lot of softer skills as well that builds in around his business acumen, how he's able to show up, etc. That's his cross-skilling. But his deep dive is front-end development. And that's what Telly, you need to understand, and that's how you're going to become successful in executing your skill in the marketplace and becoming relevant in the marketplace. Let me tell you, everything's forever changing. So I see it in the HR industry as well. I'm in a support function, right? But the way technology has shaped business, that even myself in a support role needs to understand technology. I need to understand, how is AI influencing how I recruit a graduate? How is AI influencing how am I treating employees? How am I retaining employees, etc.? What is my employee value proposition of bringing on people into an organization that I'm going to make them successful, right? So that's my take on it. Over to you, Zakia. Thanks.
Thanks, Anashri. Antoinette, do we have 3 or 4 different CVs where one is focusing on deep dive in cross skills, another one is talking a little bit more about front end and back end? How do we manage this in terms of applying for different job roles? Because some job roles want to see certain things. How are we tailoring our CVs for this?
So I think when I look for developers, my client already tells me, what kind of, programs or tools that developers should have. So it's very important when you position your CV that, the languages you do know are top, like a highlighted per se. So because, any recruiter that's looking for a developer will look for the skills first. So for your CV to pop or LinkedIn profile, you have to put your languages that you definitely know you're strong in, and right at the beginning, and then probably the less, intermediate or not so strong right at the end. Because as I recruit, I look for the languages first, and then I will go for the profile. So intake as well. If you are interviewing, they look at now, that was one of the big ones. Like 5 years ago, as a developer, you could be very introverted and never say a word. But now they look for someone that can have those soft skills. So being able to interact with other people, because you need to teach other people what you know. You need to communicate what it is that you are working on to other people. So you should be able to have those, soft skills, communication skills, that you are able to, be relatable in the workplace. So those are the other things that you need to focus on, that you work well in the team. You're just not a developer that is in his own room, locked up in some dungeon somewhere. So in terms of your CV, I think just keeping, as a developer, definitely keeping one CV that talks to everything that you do and experienced in, I think works for you, because recruiters across, any good recruiter goes across all job boards and looks for CVs. And if your CV is inconsistent in the development world, then it's not really a good look. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think one CV that is really good. What we can do is just look at your LinkedIn profile too. I can help you with that, just to see what it looks like and what we can add or remove. And then, yeah, that helps as well.
Okay, wonderful. So there's a lot happening in terms of technology, and it gets a little bit overwhelming. So recently we had a session with a group where one of the graduates came up and said, I went for an interview and I was interviewed by a bot. There was a timer, questions were popping up on the screen. And as a question popped up, I had, 90 seconds to answer. And all I did was just look at this timer go down, and I completely panicked, and I know I'm not getting this job. On one hand, my immediate reaction was, how inhumane. But then on the other side, it was like, but this is technology. Let's look at South Africa. We've got a high unemployment rate, but we have a lot of, a big gap, skills gap. So recruiters are looking for the cybersecurities, the developers, the software engineers. The tellies out there are trying to beef up their CV. So I can see where technology can come in and help, filter and sift things out to make it easy in the recruitment process. But what do you think about the idea of having a bot do the initial interview to find, whether this person has the right languages and do they have the right soft skills? It seems to be coming in, and it's happening in South Africa already. I don't know if I should start with you, Antoinette.
Let me jump in quickly there, because I did a course, I think, in 2019, and they did speak about it's a lot of companies use bots for that unconscious bias, where a bot can't tell, unfortunately, if you're Black, white, Indian, so they will never, disadvantage you because of how you sound, how you look, how you present yourself, but only because of your skill set. So in that, with that said, I think it's a really good idea. But I think sensitizing people in terms of what to expect, I think, is the more responsible part. Just don't throw in someone in there and they like, what is this about? I think the way of work with AI coming at it feels like full speed. But in that course 5 years ago, they spoke about how bots are going to come in, and I think people need to understand what the responsibility of a bot is. It's just to help the workforce with the things that don't need a human. And then the strategic part of the business is needed by the human. And that's the most important part that needs me and my attention. So it's just responsibly and letting know candidates that it will be about, sensitize yourself and be ready. And this is walk them through what the bot is expecting. And I think that process will be so much better.
And yeah, just to add to that, I think what it's actually testing in an individual, once you see this little TikToking going through, it's actually testing a person's resiliency. Because in an organization, you are put through a lot of problems. You are put through, our industry is extremely pressurized. When a system's crashing, it's for example, in an IBM space, if your salary doesn't go in on time, you've got all of your debit orders, etc. You need to know that that system's going to be up, running, and ensuring that economy is running smoothly. People are able to make the necessary purchases, etc. That little timer is testing the resiliency of a candidate as well, and testing a lot of more, how do they cope in a difficult problem? How are they solving that problem? How are they, answering maybe the second question a little bit differently because their ability to cope with the setback of this bot interviewing them, so I think it's testing a little bit more, and me having my industrial psychology degrees, etc. It's about understanding that, and I think testing it on another level without putting someone in an assessment environment or letting them undergo a formal psychometric assessment, etc. Because we know that the results of those things, depending on how an individual answers, etc., gives them a result. So again, it's transformation on another level. It's how technology is now driving and testing individuals' abilities to cope in a workplace as well. So, yeah.
Okay, so, the knife always cuts both ways. Let's look at the other side of that. Anesha, we can talk about a learner that we recruited and onboarded last year, where she screamed in the interview and she said, I'm getting this job. And you and I were so blown away, right? And we said, okay, fine. You are in. You're coming in, and it was based on her enthusiasm, something that a bot might have overlooked. And if we look at her now, she's been coping, and that enthusiasm hasn't gone away. So it wasn't just an interview behavior she gave us. It was really her authentic self. And I feel that it was a human connection that happened between you and her. And you giggled on the interview and you said, okay, fine. We're gonna give her a chance.
That's it. Yeah.
So are the bots not going to take that away? And is that not a little bit risky in the sense that human connection now starts to fade? I mean, how do we measure that someone fits into the culture of our business? That's what we look for as well when we recruit, right? How are they going to fit in? How are they going to contribute or affect the culture? And bots might.
Yeah. And I think, now with AI, you actually can see the response of an individual. So you'll see that, in the way in which they would have answered a question, did they sort of smile? Were they enthusiastic about an answer that they gave, etc.? I think technology also measures those behavioral aspects that come into play. And, I don't think the bot would be a sole contributor of the interview process. It must have just been a selection criteria, and to avoid, the numerous CVs that we receive. On one graduate advert, you can get over 1,000 applicants going in and applying, etc. So I think this is just also a filtering method of ensuring that, are we getting, it's one Antoinette in the talent acquisition space. Is she making an informed decision with giving more people the opportunity, but the 8-hour day doesn't give it? And in my recruitment days as an HR generalist, at 12 o'clock at night, I used to screen CVs, phone people up, have my list shorter listed for the morning, all of those sort of things. So you are also fatigued as an HR person going through these millions of CVs. And technology, again, has just now enabled us to help us make informed decisions, and not just go through the first 10 CVs or so and say, okay, I found my candidate, to afford them an interview opportunity. So I think it's much more robust now, and it gives more people the opportunity to be interviewed and given a chance. My take.
Okay, so Telly, I want to come over to you. When you're in the job and you're applying, to get to an Antoinette or to get to an Anashri, these opportunities don't happen generally. It feels like they're so far away. And now we've got bots sitting in between and technology. We've got Antoinette saying that your soft skills need to be brushed up as well. When you hear these insights, do you feel like you are getting closer towards where you need to be in job search? Or does it feel like it's a little bit more inundating than before? It's not as simple as it was in the past. What are the thoughts that go through? So let's talk a little bit about technology coming into the space. Are there any new tools, tech tools that you guys are looking at, that you're investigating to bring in, that'll help you with the recruitment process?
I think Anisha is frozen. No, is here. Okay, I can jump in. So, in terms of what we do use a lot, which I love, is ChatGPT. But my company has, for security reasons, they've gone and gone and made their own. So we have a very specific one for the company that we can use so that it's not in breach with clients, information and client specifics. So I use it for everything, and I think top of mind when we think AI and evolving is it, how is it affecting you, or how it's meant to help you? You spend sometimes 30 minutes trying to draft an email, making it sound right, or tonality or grammar. But once you just write a command into this tool, then it helps you just take away 25 minutes. So in terms of tools that we do use, I currently use a lot of things from what the business informs us to use more than what I would want to use. But it's in line with, making sure everything is a lot more efficient, in terms of an ATS that fits the business, which is an applicant tracking system, where even if I have maybe, like Anisha says, 1,000 applicants, we do have a GDS team that helps us sort through the criteria first, and then I can come in and then say, okay, you've given me 100 people from 1,000. Let me see of the 100, what's happening there. So it's just what the business gives you that you can use that assists you. I know a lot of other businesses where I worked, it's a lot of, timekeeping systems instead of timesheets, signing manually. And ATS is definitely top of mind in terms of tools that assist with recruitment and, document signing instead of printing and signing, electronic signatures. That takes away a lot of time from someone having to go print, sign, and then go rescan and send. So it's just, if you have a smartphone or a laptop, you can sign. So those are those, the tools and devices that we use just to help us, just get through the work that we need to do.
Lovely, yeah. So
And then
on
Ashley,
our
on your
side-
side.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing, Antoinette. So yeah, in terms of from an IBM's perspective, we're heavily driven from an AI perspective. And we have things like Ask HR, for example. So our HR organization is quite small in country, but globally, you can say, if I'm an employee and I would like to have a policy or a procedure, I type it in a bot and, it gives me my necessary. If I'm a line manager and I want to transfer an employee or complete a payroll transaction, etc., it does it for me. So everything I just go through a command and it does the work for me. You don't have to have the older days where you have to sit next to a payroll officer and say, this is the transactions I need for my team or anything of that sort. The Ask HR bot does everything for us. In terms of talent acquisition as well, we have many processes and systems in place to gather the right skill set. And that's why my messaging, similarly to Antoinette, to Telly, is ensuring that the skill set is written correctly in their CVs, in their LinkedIn profiles, etc. Because we have systems that bring this all together so that we get the right candidate for the roles that we are looking for. And this has helped us shortlist individuals and, really assisted us in getting the right talent for business. So, yeah.
Okay. That tool actually sounds very interesting, Anashri. And I'm sure IBM is planning to roll it out to some of its clients as well. You probably got some clients on board that are testing or using it. Okay.
Yeah. And it is for sale, to every organization that wants to start implementing it. It's integrated with Workday, SAP, etc. So, it's integratable into other payroll systems, and it's made HR work flow, so streamlined and easy to utilize. I can go on about IBM. In terms of some of the other technologies that it has, we have like Your Learning, for example, that allows, if you are linked to a specific job role, there's career paths for that job role that gets attached, so an individual knows what to expect in that job role, how to certify so they can get an opportunity for promotion within the organization. Obviously, there's other criteria, etc., but it helps drive that conversation. Talking about conversations, we have Your Career, where you can book a career conversation with your manager, put in your next role, and then get learning attached to that. And then we've got Your Guides. So Your Guides hooks an individual up or an employee up to coaches and mentors across the board on industry, soft skills, etc., where they are able to get coached and mentored by professionals in the industry and, help them grow in the space. So, yeah, very tech savvy.
Very tech savvy and right on point with what's needed. I think that's what I enjoy working with technology companies. As much as I am not a techie myself, and I've never desired to be one, coding is not, it's not something that I will attempt. But just being around the space, it gives you the opportunity to keep up, because technology is ultimately a lot of research that comes into a solution. And if you can keep up with technology, it's done all the research for you. It's telling you what's trending. It's telling you, what people are looking for. So I just want to see if Telly's sound is working now. Telly, are you good with your sound?
Yes, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Perfect. So the ladies shared quite a bit of insights around how technology is coming into the HR space and how it supports, the activities that they do, makes their lives a lot easier when it comes to the screening process. And then Anashri shared with us a lot more beyond that in terms of what IBM is doing to roll out technology to support learning in the workplace. The question I have for you, Telly, is Now knowing that, there is technology coming in, and, there are certain things that you need to have on your CV so that, AI or the intelligence can pick up your CV correctly. What sort of emotions does this bring up in you? Do you feel a little bit more comfortable with it, or do you feel a bit more inundated or confused? Where does that leave you as someone that's in the job market?
I believe making AI take more responsibility in selecting candidates is becoming
So, the interesting thing is, in this conversation, both of you hit on so many different touch points, very specific to Telly. So coaching Telly's been quite the introvert, but he's been working really hard on himself to break out of that. And you'll know from an introvert's point of view, basic conversations can be a little bit stressful. Yeah. So he's been working on himself. And Antoinette, you mentioned, that we've got to have these soft skills. I know from dealing with legacy tech people, where they have this impression of, I'm just going to come with my shorts and my socks, and I'm going to sneak in that side door that goes into the building. I don't have to greet anyone. And then, like us, if I have my coffee and even if the lights are not on, better, if no one sees me, it's just my computer screen. And so I carry on. And I do feel that there are a lot of challenges bringing soft skills into the IT space because of this perception that has happened in the past. That if I'm a coder or a developer, I don't have to talk to people. Here we're rolling out the insights discovery. It's similar to, it's like a psychometric test, and it really does evaluate a full 360 on, your strengths, your weaknesses. And I've been working closely with Insights Discovery to understand the South African market in particular. And no IT companies are signing up for this program in South Africa. Microsoft, AWS, Cisco, globally, big time. They've got a lot of companies out in Europe and America that are investing in this, IT companies, but in South Africa, there just does not seem to be an appetite for it in the IT space. And Insights is supporting Skills Alliance in quite a big way to drive this out, because they're saying that there must be, a market in South Africa, and Skills Alliance is dealing with the IT space. So why are we not gaining traction? And this is something that I'm also curious about. And hearing both of you talking about soft skills coming into the IT space, it seems like we're all in a sweet spot to be having this discussion. But the actual IT individual does not seem to be interested in emotional intelligence. If I've got coding certificates and I know how to create, I can bring results from what I've coded, it's okay. You should be happy with what I can do. What are your thoughts around this? Are you feeling and sensing the same thing that I am from where I'm sitting? Or are you seeing things a little bit differently in terms of soft skills in the IT space?
So yeah, Zaki, I'll go first. And I think, it's needed. Soft skills is needed. It's not only about the coding abilities or the technical abilities that one has. And I think it starts with the profiling of university. So how are they taking in students on the BSc Computer Science, etc.? How are they taking on individuals? What is that profile that is fitting the need of universities or technicons, colleges, etc., taking up and making the assumption of what the IT industry is actually about? I think there's a disjointedness between higher education and what organizations sort of need and require. The technology space has, changed. It's not about sitting at the back of a desk and coding and creating, etc. Being part of a global organization, that tech solution is already there. It is about understanding that tech solution and helping solve other businesses' problems, solutions, driving transformation, digital transformation of other organizations. And that's what I've seen with my industry or organizations that I'm servicing. And it's really about breaking the barrier of what the expectations is from a higher education perspective, and then what is the need for industry. And I think that's where the divide is. some of the lecturers, etc., expecting that, you're going to be coding, you're going to be this data scientist, you're going to be, developing and doing things, amazing things. But they don't understand that they need to work in a team. They need to have high problem solving abilities. They need to have emotional intelligence. Most of them are, on standby, working hours, for example, where they're interacting with a customer or client that's going to call them up and be very frustrated at that time. How are they going to be dealing with certain individuals in that space? So I really see the shift is going to be where higher education sort of changes the mindset and curriculum to immerse the softer skills so that a person is fully ready to join the business. And I think, unfortunately, government and business, etc., they always make it private company the issue, if there's a sort of public matter. And if we deep dive into what is the requirements from that level, I think it would be a great filter into what we require. So, yeah.
Antoinette.
I just kept on nodding the whole time. Yeah, it is, that divide between having left uni to come into the workplace. It's just that connection that is not really linking up. They do have the skills, they do want to work, but that elusiveness of soft skills that I don't know. We kind of lacking when you're in university, or do not focus on, is just letting them down. But just that focus that needs to come into that, because you will be working with other people, creating solutions for people as well. So you just need that relatability, definitely. Yeah. So the one reason I did mention, especially soft skills, I could pick up that Telly is very, introverted from the get-go. Having sat on so many interviews, I can tell that he is trying, but that's something he really needs to work on. So I can help him with even, interview prepping as well, if he's very interested. Just possibly looking at his, what CV template he has, and what does that look like? We can revamp that. And even his LinkedIn profile, what does that look like? What else to add? And yeah, just presenting himself once he has that interview, because Aneshri can confirm, once you get shortlisted, your CV gets shortlisted, the skill set is definitely correct. So how you present yourself in the interview is the only thing that stands in your way to being hired. So how you would be talking and responding to the questions is what ultimately says we will take this person or not. So I think if he still wants that guidance, I can help him with that. I can do 2 or 3 sessions with him, and he'll probably feel so much better as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure he'll take you up on that.
Yeah, I don't mind, sort of mentoring and coaching him as well, and sort of doing an interview with him, and seeing what are some of the gaps, because I've seen it in many individuals recently where organizations, or we want to test a curiosity mindset, and at the end of an interview, for example, we've taken the time for a manager or technical team member, etc., to sit through an interview with us, and we would have a graduate in front of us, but they would say, at the end of the interview, do you have any questions for us? And that's like our aha moment, and if they say, oh, what's my working hours, or what's this, then we're like, oh, dampens our spirits slightly. But it's about asking the right questions so that we can gain curiosity. We want individuals, organizations like us, we look for individuals that have a curious mindset, ask the question, Telly believes that AI is the trending need at the moment. Asking the technical manager, how does he upskill himself? How does he keep himself relevant in the marketplace with still having a front-end dev degree or something of that sort, engage the manager, engage the HR practitioner, etc., so that, you get to test an individual's curiosity, their problem-solving abilities as well. And one last thing that I think that resonates a lot with me, I did put this as well, is around understanding and researching the organizations that they come from. It's not only about them. It's not about only them putting up themselves in the CVs, etc. It's not about them reciting the introduction of what an organization is on the front page of their. I think we get that too often, but really about saying, do they go into newsletters? Do they go into IT web and understand what has been the latest impact of that organization in economy, understanding macroeconomics, understanding societal issues and barriers and how an organization can impact or influence, and if someone comes with that sort of mindset, it's preparedness to an interview, it will showcase and it will allow us to test that soft skills of an individual. So yeah, that would be my one hint for Telly, and would see how he interviews, and evaluate and assess him through that. So yeah.
So it's easy for us, for the three of us, to pick up the gaps, and I think it's because of the experience we have, right? We've been around the block a good couple of times. But the gap is growing. And it's okay to say, let's look at higher education, the universities. I mean, we can even go, one step further and say what's happening in the home environment. How are we as parents preparing our kids, for life later on? Are we having these conversations with them? Are we telling them about, being resilient? Are we helping them develop these skills, or are we just allowing them to be, that bratty teenager that just doesn't listen for 7 years? And then we shove them off into university and hope that they make something of their career. So the reason why I have you two beautiful souls in the Lit Talk today is because I know that it's your mission to push and drive upliftment in your spaces. So, if there are any final words that you can offer, and actually we can start with you. Final words for someone that wants to come into the IBM space. What is IBM looking for? What is training right now, and how can they get there?
Yeah, so Zakia, it's really about, as I alluded to, having a curiosity mindset. While being unemployed, how has an individual extended themselves? How have they extended themselves in the community? Telly has, said, he's been unemployed for 6 months. What has he been doing within that 6 months that allowed him to still stay relevant in the marketplace? What community projects? How is he comes with a wealth of theory. How is he practically demonstrating their theories? There's so many technologies out there that you don't have to belong to an organization to be successful. Where is his entrepreneurial mindset that will drive him in, employing people of his own, in his own company one day? And I think we've seen many people being successful in the insights and their learning through this. And those are successful individuals where they will still be maybe successful in a graduate program in an organization, but having the curiosity and the mindset, the impact in communities, etc., that will allow them to be successful in the marketplace. So that's my closing remarks. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Anashri. Antoinette, what's trending in the recruitment side? What are the new hot jobs that are out there? What are you seeing people asking for a lot these days?
So tech is still top of mind, tech risk especially. So the demand is still there and is still increasing. So what is, the one other thing is remote and hybrid work, models, meaning you can work from home, work from a different location, be bi-coastal. So that is one of the other things that is coming up. Employee wellness, gone are those days where you just suffer in silence as an employee within the workplace and you had no one to talk to, or your organization didn't care. So a lot of companies are focusing on, making sure that, in as much as you are, your output for work is there, but you are working optimally as a human as well. And, the focus on upskilling and reskilling initiatives, where there is a gap where you still have graduates coming in and someone that has worked there for 20 years. So that skills transference is top of mind, and one of the things a lot of companies are working on, because you find that, the person that's been there 20 years has learned the business from inception till now, and the new person cannot relate to how they do the work, but just then that skills transference then is very important, from old to new. And then a lot of, diversity and equity, that, DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Having a diverse workforce, really works well, because we're all different and we all think differently. And, with all those different personalities coming in, I think then it works to the best of an organization to get the best solutions out to the market, because it's very inclusive. So those are the things that are, top of current in the job market right now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Aneshri. I know you have a hard stop. Thank you for joining the
Thank
session.
you. Thank
I'll
you,
let you know
Zakia. Thank
before
you,
it goes
Antoinette. It's a
live.
lovely meeting. Yeah, will
Lovely.
you share the recordings before it's posted?
I
Stunning.
will.
Thanks so
Okay,
much. Take
enjoy.
care. Take care. Lovely meeting you,
Thanks, Aneshri.
Antoinette.
You too.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.